بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Last class we talked about manners of the student of knowledge and the manners of the Muslim in general. And today, inshallah, we're going to begin by studying the chapter of taharah. فصل في الطهارة. الطهارة قسمان: طهارة حدث وطهارة خبث، ولا يصح الجميع إلا بالماء الطاهر المطهر، وهو الذي لم يتغير لونه أو طعمه أو رائحته بما يفارقه غالبا. طهارة in the Arabic language means cleanliness and purity. The exact Shar'i conventional term used by the fuqaha is a صفة حكمية. First of all, what's a صفة حكمية? It's a ruling related attribute. This is opposed to a physical attribute. So if someone comes to me covered in mud, I'm not going to say he's clean from a linguistic point of view. I'm not going to say he's clean. However, from a Shara'i point of view, he could be tahir. So tahara in a normal usage is different from a Shara'i usage. Someone could be squeaky clean. There could be no filth on him, any physical filth on him. However, he could still be not in a state of tahara because he is in a state of hadath. For example, he just woke up from a deep sleep, or he just went to the bathroom. He is not in a state of tahara because tahara is a ruling related attribute. So the attribute is not a physical one, but it's related to the Shara'i ruling of tahara. So tahara is two categories. The first one is taharatu hadath, and the second one is taharatu khabath. And hadath in the language means something that has happened after it was not there. And it usually refers to events or actions that a human being does that nullifies the state of tahara. As opposed to khabath, which is a physical impurity that can be on you, such as Meta, such as dead meat from a non-slaughtered animal, such as the fadalat, or the waste of haram meat, such as the waste of a dog or the waste of a cat. This is called khabath. It's a physical impurity. It's not related to an action undertaken by the human being. Now, the full list of the ahdath, the full list of things that are considered a hadath, and the full list of things that are najasat khabath, physical impurities, we're going to go into that later. The point of this specific chapter in the book is it's not really a long book, so it's not a chapter, but this specific section is to talk about the water which we are allowed to use to perform tahara, to perform a Shar'i purification or a Shar'i cleanliness. ولا يصح الجميع إلا بالماء الطاهر المطهر. So in both طهارة حدث and طهارة خبث, the only valid طهارة is with الماء الطاهر المطهر. So water, it has to be water first of all, and it has to be طاهر and مطهر. So there's three conditions. The first one is related to what it is, and the second two related to the attributes of that water, the thing that it is. Now, of course, there is other tahara in Islam without using water, such as tayammum. However, this is assuming that water is there. When he says no tahara is valid except with water, that means that when the water is there and when there is something you can use for tahara. So this is a default statement. So what is al-ma' al-tahir al-mutahhir? Tahir al-mutahhir, according to the Hanafis and some other scholars, means the same thing. It means pure. According to the majority of the scholars, including the Malikiyya, tahir and mutahhir mean different things. Al-tahir is pure. It is opposed to najas, impure. Al-mutahhir is a subcategory of tahir. Al-mutahhir is what is pure in itself and able to purify other things. So that means that there are types of water that are tahir, that they're pure. However, we're not allowed to use them for wudu or ghusl because they are pure in themselves, but they're not purifying of other things. Now, what are these types of waters? هو الذي لم يتغير لونه أو طعمه أو رائحته بما يفارقه غالبا. So unrestrained water or absolute water is the water that is used for taharah. What is unrestrained or absolute water? Or in Arabic, the proper term is al-ma' al-mutlaq. It is water that has not been changed either through its color, its taste, or its scent by something that is not usually in it. So for example, water that has been used to cook meat. I cook meat in a pot of water for half an hour, and then I take the meat out, and I have the water left. This is no longer absolute water. This is something else now. This is called stew or soup, or whatever other words are used. Same thing for tea. If I put a tea bag in the water, it's not najas. The tea bag is not najas, it's a pure thing. However, when I mix it in the water, that water is no longer absolute water. It is now water that is restrained. It is water that is restricted in its attributes by something else that has been added to it. So now it is a new thing. It is no longer just water, it's tea water. And the stew was now meat water or vegetable water or whatever other thing you cooked in it. Same thing as rose water or saffron water. Sometimes we put these spices or these flowers in water so that they smell better. These things, meat, vegetables, rose, saffron, these things are not usually in water. So therefore, if water changes either in its scent, its taste, or its color, then it is no longer mutahhir, meaning it no longer purifies other things. You can't use it for wudu or ghusl. However, the water itself is still pure. It's still tahir. That it's not najas, it's still tahir, but it's not mutahhir. Now we have exceptions to this rule. Or not exceptions per se, but things that some people would not notice. So the things that change the attributes of the water, they must be things that are not usually in it. However, things that are usually in water or around water are accepted from this rule. For example, a bottle or a cup or a well. We don't use wells a lot these days, but still the ruling hasn't changed. A well or a river or a pond. A pond can have things such as rocks, dirt, soil, mud. There can be tree leaves in it. There can be, other things that are usually in the pond or in the river or in the well. In the well is usually stoned by rocks and sometimes maybe clay. These things are usually around water because that is where we find water. Those of you who may have used a water bottle in the past, specifically if it's made of stainless steel, you may have noticed that the taste of this water changes and it actually tastes a little metallic. So according to what is being said, that the color and the taste and the scent, if one of them changes, then it's no longer mutahhir. However, this is an exception. Because water is usually stored and is around these places, these are accepted, and any change in color or taste or scent from something that is usually in it or usually around it, this does not remove it from a mutahhir to a non-mutahhir state. Rather, these types of water remain mutahhir. So if you're using a water bottle and the water tastes a little metallic, you can still use it for wudu. If you're drinking from a river or making wudu from a river and it tastes a little, naturey, you can taste the mud, you can taste the rocks, this is still mutahhir. It's still allowed to be used. Some of you have, it's specifically in the West, some of you you may have gone to, you know, may have gone hiking or may have took survival, survival classes, wilderness survival classes. You may know something called tannin. When you have tree leaves falling in ponds of water or rivers or wells, etc., you have a dark substance, a dark brown or almost blackish substance that comes out of the water, and this is due to the fact that the tree leaves are decaying and turning into other substances. So tannin is one of these chemicals that comes out and gives a dark brown color. This is something that is natural. This is in these types of places where you find water. So if you do water from a river or a pond or something in nature, in the desert you might have an oasis, and you have this dark brown substance in the water, that's natural. And this is still mutahhir water. This is still water that you can use for purification, for wudu, and for ghusl. Now, if I were to take these substances, such as tree leaves, and purposely put them in the water, if I have, for example, a bowl of water at home, and I purposely put these things in it, then this is a change that will make it non-mutahhir, because it's purposely done. So these changes regarding things such as tree leaves, such as wood, such as rocks, they have to be in the natural place of that water where it was found. It cannot be purposely done. If it was purposely done, in that case, you cannot do wudu with that water if it changes one of the three attributes. Now, there is one exception to this. And that exception is the water of the ocean. The water of the ocean, if someone were to come upon it, he would not say, if you were to give someone a bowl or a glass of ocean water, he would not say this is water. He would say this is ocean water. So according to the language, this is no longer ma' mutlaq. However, this exception is made because of the hadith, in which the Sahaba radiallahu anhum were once at sea. They were on a ship, and they said, and when they came back, they told the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that we are fearful of making wudu with the water we have, because if we make wudu, there's a bunch of people and we're all making wudu 5 times a day, then we're going to run out of water. We can't just stop anywhere. We're out at sea. And so the Prophet said, the sea, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the sea, its water, it's pure, and its dead meat is pure. So this is an exception to the case. We have one case in which al-ma' al-mutlaq is not a condition, and that is seawater. Any other case, it has to be ma' al-mutlaq. So anyone who comes upon it has to say this is water. Someone who comes upon rose water is not going to say this is water. He's going to say this is rose water. Someone who comes upon water from a river, even if it tastes funny, even if it tastes strange, he's still going to say this is water. So, to review, it is permissible to make wudu only with that which is mutahhir. And that it is two: al-ma' al-mutlaq, unrestricted or absolute water, and the water of the ocean. Water that changes one of its 3 attributes through something that is not usually in it, such as rose, such as saffron, such as meat, this becomes tahir. It is still clean and pure. It is not najas. However, you cannot use it in ibadat. You cannot use it to purify yourself in wudu or in ghusl. And so, al-akhdari rahimahullah gives some of his own examples. ولم يتغير لونه أو طعمه أو رائحته بما يفارقه غالبا كالزيت والسمن والدسم كله والوضح والصابون والوسخ. So he says things such as oil, such as fat, such as soap. These are things that are not usually in water, and therefore, if water changes one of its 3 attributes from some of these things, and I gave you more examples, then it is no longer permissible to make wudu. And then he says, وَلَا بَأْسَ بِالتُّرَابِ وَالْحَمَأَةِ وَالسَّبِخَةِ وَالْآجُرِ وَنَحْوِ. So there is no problem with soil, clay, and the natural substances we mentioned. Another example which I may have forgotten to mention is leather or fur. If again, this is an example that students may forget because we no longer use them this much in the modern day. Back in the day, they used to store water in bags made of leather, or sometimes bags made of fur, and this would definitely change the taste. This is again normal if it is not done on purpose to change the taste. If this is the normal way of storing water for you, then this is permissible to make wudu with. And so this is the summary, a very brief introduction to the types of water in the madhab. Now, of course, why is he mentioning? This is something I probably should have mentioned at the beginning of class. The reason he is mentioning what the aqsam al-miyah, the categories of water, this early on, is because the majority of you will know, and you should know, that salah is the most important form of worship, and the most important condition of salah is taharah, and that is why taharah is the first and foremost chapter mentioned. And the most important aspect of taharah is using water, and that's why water is the first section of the taharah, of the larger taharah section. So the categories of fiqh in books of fiqh and books of hadith, they're always for a reason. Nothing is random. He's not randomly mentioning water in the very beginning. When you read some other advanced texts later on, you're going to notice that there is different ijtihad in what the most important thing is. So sometimes, for example, in the Muwatta of Imam Malik, the first thing mentioned is not the categories of water, but rather the timings of the prayer. So each Imam has different ijtihad about what the most important thing to mention is. And this is something, inshallah, when you guys read many more books, you're going to be able to recognize these differences. فصل: إذا تعينت النجاسة غسل محلها، فإن التبست غسل الثوب كله، ومن شك في إصابة النجاسة نضح، وإن أصابه شيء شك في نجاسته فلا نضح عليه، ومن تذكر النجاسة وهو في الصلاة قطع إلا أن يخاف خروج الوقت، ومن صلى بها ناسيا وتذكر بعد السلام أعاد في الوقت. So a new subsection about physical impurities. He does not mention what the physical impurities are, but we're going to mention this later, but he mentions the ruling of them. إذا تعينت النجاسة غسل محلها. First of all, it is wajib, it is obligatory to remove physical impurities from yourself and from the place of prayer. When we say from yourself, that includes your body. When we say in your body, it includes your skin, it includes what you're wearing on your head, it includes what is in your pocket, it includes even what is in your stomach. And the second of all, the place of prayer, the place in which you will make sujood. It is obligatory to remove them, to remove physical impurities for salah, as opposed to some other fuqaha who mentioned that it is simply a sunnah. However, the position of the Maliki madhab is that it is obligatory, and we will the place for evidences in later texts, not right now. إذا تعينت النجاسة غسل محلها. If he knows where the najasa is, he has to wash its place. He has to wash it to an extent in which the water will start coming out pure. Meaning, if I have a white cloth that I'm going to wear and I have a stain, I can clearly see the stain. I know where the najasa is. I have to wash it. If I am capable of washing the color and the smell and the taste away, then I must do all three. However, if I am unable to wash away the smell, and the color, except with extreme difficulty, then this is not necessary. Rather, the only thing that is always necessary is to wash away the taste, which is understandable by the physical substance. And to know when this has happened, you have to keep washing this until the water comes from the other side of the stain, tahir, meaning the water is no longer picking up any of the color or the attributes of this impurity on the thobe or on the cloth. So when the water is no longer coming out with anything, and the water is starting to come out from the other side, tahir, then I know I have washed enough for the sake of salah to be valid. So if I know where the stain is, إذا تعينت النجاسة غسل محلها, its place is washed. فإن التبست غسل الثوب كله. If I know that there is najasa on the thobe, however, I do not know where it is. I know something dropped on me, however, I can't see it. I can't see where that drop is, especially if you are like me right now wearing black clothes. Sometimes it's very difficult to see where it is. In that case, I have to wash the entire article of clothing. This is if I know there is najasa, but I don't know where it is. ومن شك في إصابة النجاسة نضح. So whoever doubts if najasa has touched him, nadah. So we said, first of all, someone who doubts where the place is. If he doubts where the place is, but he knows that it's there, he washes the entire thobe. However, if I, for example, see something drop, and I'm not sure, did it drop on me or did it drop beside me? Then he says nadah. He doesn't say ghasal, doesn't say اغسل الثوب, he says انضحه. Nadaha means to sprinkle water lightly. So when there is doubt regarding whether the najasa has touched you, then it is only a matter of sprinkling water on the place where you doubt it is. And there is no harm in doing more, such as tapping and rubbing, and even if you want to wash it, there's nothing wrong. However, it is not obligated upon you. وإن أصابه شيء شك في نجاسته لا نضح عليه. So if something gets on him and he doesn't know if it's najas, something, I feel a drop of liquid on me, I don't know, is it water or is it urine from, for example, a high apartment building? I have no idea what it is. And then in that case, I do not even have to sprinkle water because the asl is tahara. The default state of things is tahara until you have evidence that is najasa. However, if you're in doubt, you're uncertain whether you're just speculating what this thing is, then it remains tahir because the default state of things is tahara. ومن تذكر النجاسة وهو في الصلاة قطع إلا أن يخاف خروج الوقت. Someone who begins prayer and he doesn't know that there is najasa on him, and then he remembers in the middle of prayer, it is obligatory upon him to stop praying immediately and to remove the najasa and then to restart his prayer. There's two exceptions to this. إلا أن يخاف خروج الوقت. If he stops the prayer right now to remove the najasa, and that would lead to him missing the time of the prayer, then it is not necessary upon him. If there's only 1 minute left and he needs to finish the rak'ah right now, in that case, he is allowed to continue praying. Because in the Maliki madhab, the most important condition is the timing of the prayer. As we said, the first chapter in Muwatta is the timings of the prayer. Because according to Imam Malik, that is more important than tahara. So it is more important for him to pray on time than to remove this najasa, and therefore, if najasa drops on him if he remembers that there is najasa on him during the prayer, then he is only obligated to repeat the prayer if he can do it in time. And a similar scenario is one who enters the prayer and there's no najasa on him, and he knows there's no najasa on him, but najasa drops on him in the middle of the prayer. In this case, it would be the same scenario. If najasa drops on him in the prayer, he is only to repeat if he can repeat during the time of the prayer. And one of the aspects of being able to repeat in the time of the prayer is being able to repeat in the time of the prayer. If, for example, he is in the desert, he has no water with him, he's traveling, for example, and he can't use any water. He has just a tiny bit of water to drink. He can't use any water. And najasa drops on him in the middle of the prayer. There is enough time for him to repeat the prayer after removing the najasa. However, he is unable to remove the najasa in the first place. In this case, he is also allowed to continue praying and the prayer is valid. So two aspects. First one, whether or not he has enough time left. The second aspect is whether or not he is able to in the first place. So even if he has 2 hours, if he's praying dhuhr and he has 2 hours left till asr, if he's unable to remove the najasa in the first place, in that case, he is not obligated to remove it, and he can continue praying. ومن صلى بها ناسيا وتذكر بعد السلام أعاد في الوقت. Whoever prays with najasa on him, and he forgets during the entirety of the prayer, and he only remembers after the salam, after he has finished his prayer, it is recommended for him, it is mandub for him to repeat while he is still in that prayer timing. If he only remembers after the prayer timing ends, in that case, it is not even recommended. There's no recommendation to repeat. He is allowed to continue on with his day. So the only instance in where it is recommended for him to repeat the prayer is if he remembers the najasa after the salam and he is still in the prayer in the time of that prayer. We'll stop here for today. If anyone has any questions, I know there's not a lot of people today. Most people will be watching the recording. I'll give just a few seconds if someone is typing, and then I will assume nobody has any questions.
I mean,
go ahead.
Well, Jazakallah khair. Second of all, in the beginning, we talked about sifa al-hikmiyya. Can you just go over that one more time? Because I just want to write it down.
Okay. Sifa hukmiyya. Someone who has awakened from a state of sleep. Deep sleep in the Maliki madhab nullifies wudu. He doesn't have any physical impurities on him. If he has physical impurities on him, we say it's a sifa dhatiyya that he is najas. A sifa dhatiyya is related to a dhat. It's related to an actual substance, a thing. A sifa hukmiyya is that there's no thing on him. His ruling is that he is not in taharah. If he makes taharah, if he makes wudu, the sifa hukmiyya, the ruling, the attribute related to the ruling, the shara'i ruling of that person is that he is in taharah. So sifa hukmiyya, it's nisbah to a hukum shara'i. الصفة الحكمية أنه طاهر. The sifa hukmiyya of him is that he is pure. He could be extremely, for example, he could have a very bad hygiene problem. He could be covered in all sorts of filth. However, if he does wudu, the sifa hukmiyya is that he is tahir. He is clean from a shara'i perspective. The hukum shara'i of him is that he is pure and clean. So it's a sifa hukmiyya different from a sifa dhatiyya. Does that clear it up?
Yeah, so sifa hukmiyya is essentially the shari'i ruling of the individual, right? Even though if he has physical impurities on him or not, right?
Yes, so
but then,
when we say the shara'i ruling, we say hukmuhu. When we say the sifa hukmiyya, it's an attribute, it's a description. It's a little more specific than a hukum. It's a little more specific than a shara'i ruling. So when I say, for example, salah is wajib, that's a hukum. However, it's not a sifa hukmiyya because I'm not describing a thing. I'm just stating what the ruling is. When I say Ahmad طاهر, that's a صفة حكمية. It's a صفة of Ahmad. It's a description and an attribute of Ahmad that he is طاهر.
Okay.
طيب. If I am in a place where I only have rose water or sand, I gather tayammum would be the only pure way to, yes. If you're in a place and you only have rose water and sand, you make tayammum. Rose water is not because the ayah is فَإِن لَمْ تَجِدُوا مَاءً فَتَيَمَّمُوا. If you do not find if you do not find water, and water in this ayah is mutlaq. فَإِن لَمْ تَجِدُوا مَاءً فَتَيَمَّمُوا. If you do not find water, go to tayammum. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not mention anything in between them. He did not mention any other things to use between them. So yes, if you only have rose water and sand, then you make tayammum. It's a state of metaphysical purity rather than something purely physical. Yes, something like that, even though I don't really like the word metaphysical being used. It's a little over technical. If nobody has any more questions, doesn't seem like there is. Next time.
Sorry, just to,
Yes.
if you don't mind, bro, just one thing. And the sifa dhatiyya is what meets the eye, right? If he's just physically impure.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Next time, inshallah, we'll go through the fara'id of wudu, and if we have time, the sunan and the fada'il, or the mandubat, the recommendations of wudu. So I don't think we can finish wudu in one class, in one 30-minute class, due to the time limit. So inshallah, we'll be able to finish, inshallah. طيب. جزاكم الله خيرا all for coming. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين.